Okay. Hey, Corstian. How's it
Hello,
going?
hello. Pretty good. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Uh, I thought I was doing good watching this four-game winning streak, and now I don't feel good.
Mm-hmm.
But I find myself looking at some of the tape of Caleb, and I'm like, okay, this is not as bad as it was like watching in real time,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like a broken record talking about the penalties and the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
It's getting ridiculous beyond this point, like how they can't course correct. And I feel like Ben Johnson's doing everything he can, but ultimately it comes down to the players. And this
Mm-hmm.
is something I was worried about going back when the Detroit fiasco last year, when that offense, like in the Motor City, could not manage a clock with the past 30 seconds with a chance to win. And I was looking at an entire operation and how they just get organized to snap the ball properly or manage the clock or eliminate pre-snap penalties. And
Mm-hmm.
I was probably one of the only people I've seen that didn't really solely blame Eberflus for that. And I was like, Caleb's got to be better in that scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm starting to see the same things in this Bears offense, and that has me concerned. Now, is it all
Yeah.
on Caleb? No, but I think I already got on this tangent already. Half into this episode.
Mm-hmm.
But with that said, I do think the players got to step up in order to make Ben Johnson's scheme work. You need total buy-in and you need total improvement week to week. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a little bit going wrong for every player on this offense going through growing pains, still halfway through the season. I thought they were over it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just a daily reminder. Like, if you see teams have like waves and winning streaks and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
it's not linear like the team's performance. So I would like it to be. I'm sure we all like it to be, but
Mm-hmm.
um, I think it's one of those things where I'm not going to panic yet. But
Mm-hmm.
I saw the Jets put up 39 on the Bengals
Yeah.
with Justin Fields, who was benched the week before. So Caleb's got a lot of pressure on him going into this week, and I think he's up for it. But
Yeah.
I hope this game was a wake up call. So
Mm-hmm.
that, in short, that's how I'm doing watching the Bears so far. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like overall, still, I think it's positive things to look forward to with the Chicago Bears. I think for sure this was a very disappointing loss. I think this was it was going to be, I think, a tough game regardless, but I think this is definitely a winnable game considering the state of the Baltimore Ravens. And I think that's where it hurts the most, where it's like if you lose to one of the upper echelon teams of the league, then you're like, okay, we still got room to grow. But then you go and lose to the Ravens, who you have saying like, their head coach might be a candidate to get fired this season, and then I'm like, the Ravens might miss the playoffs. And for that kind of team to go and beat the Bears, who I think were seen in a more positive light as of late, which is it was a disappointing loss. But I think I mean, just like most teams with rebuilding, it isn't always, that like one season flip. I mean, there's some teams that we've seen that happen. I think that creates the expectation that every team, when you start having the pieces come together, should be an immediate switch. I mean, we look at last season with the Commanders, right, where it was kind of a worst to first type situation, and we're like, same quarterback class. Hopefully, the Bears can kind of do something like that. But obviously, each team's path's different. You look at the Detroit Lions, the juggernaut they are now, but like the first 2 years, I think, with Dan Campbell, they didn't have a winning record, but then you saw at the back half of that second season, they had a little bit of that streak going, and then they carried that forward into now what they are. So it's just kind of like how it really just depends on how the front office goes about, I guess, how they want to build this team and how they're going to set it up for winning in the future. Because, I mean, sometimes you get the miracle that happens with like a Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels, where you're competitive year one.
right.
But sometimes it's a little bit different.
Yeah, and I love how you brought up the Commanders because I was just going to bring a different perspective on the Commanders. Look how they screwed up this season when Jaden Daniels went down. you look at their overall team once he went down, and there's a lot of questions about their defense. And you have people looking at that team, and it's like, okay, from the GM perspective, did you invest in the right areas? And you have a talent where you got like lightning in a bottle, and you're like, okay, we got to protect this talent at all costs. Valid. I think a lot of people would agree with that approach. But you look at all the defensive deficiencies there, and it's like Jaden Daniels was playing well despite the defense struggling the way it did last season, where it's kind of like middle of the road.
Mm,
And you shudder to think what would happen if that defense was like really, really good, similar to what the Chiefs had did when they shipped away Tyreek Hill and just committed all their resources to defense, and suddenly their defense was just like crazy, crazy elite. And you wonder if the Washington Commanders had invested in the defense, knowing they have a superstar quarterback for the next couple of years,
mhm.
where their season might have tailed off differently, even with
Yeah.
a Marcus Mariota stepping up.
Mhm.
And then the other thing I want to bring up too is Josh Allen. I have a couple stats here to kind of compare Josh Allen's first 2 seasons
Mhm.
to Caleb Williams. A lot of people, including myself, are kind of annoyed by Caleb Williams missing the layups.
Mhm.
Josh Allen, I think, is an accurate comp here because I'm not saying Caleb Williams is Josh Allen. He doesn't have the mobility that Josh Allen has. But Josh Allen, you knew from a distance, can can capably throw the ball in any scenario because he just had a gifted arm, right? But if you remember Josh Allen for the first 2 seasons, like he had an off-target rate of 23.5%. And like his mechanics would just like change from throw to throw. It wasn't until Brian Dable was his OC in year 3 that everything started to click and come together. And you see Josh Allen that comes in now. And credit to him for building on the skills and whatnot. But this is just a reminder that Caleb Williams is kind of in year 2. His
Mhm.
off-target percentage is 21.3%. So 2% lower than Allen. And it's one of those things where it's like, can Ben Johnson be the Brian Dable for Caleb Williams? And
Mhm.
can the ownership, the public, Chicago media, can the coaches give him time to build those skills? That's the
Mhm.
big question. Because you you see it. You see the flashes, but you need the consistency to go up, and you're hoping this game is kind of a wake-up call where it's like,
Mhm.
the Ravens are a great team. They're a well-coached team. I think people forgot that over their losing streak without Lamar.
Mhm.
You saw Tyler Huntley just be completely consistent
Mhm.
and efficient. And it's like, okay, Caleb, we know you can make every throw in the book you want, but we don't need that to happen so often where you cut off half the field and try to make a ridiculous pocket throw and win. We don't need you to do that all the time. Can you
Mhm.
take the gimmies? Because on that interception, there was a gimme that he missed. And he threw it a little bit behind. Like, he probably thinks he can make that throw, and he has the talent to make that throw where he can throw it in front of Odunze and not behind him. But does he even have to do that in the first place given the situation?
Mhm.
He doesn't need to do that when he's basically at his own goal line, you know?
Mhm.
He could do that when he's in the middle of the field and has, like, all these resources available to him. But it's kind of like him learning the scenarios and being like, "Okay, what can I get away with? What can I not get away with in this offense?" Caleb is just starting to figure that out, and I'm hopeful this is gonna be like a turning point for the better.
Yeah, and I think the Bears also have an easy next couple of games to hopefully like right that ship where it's not going to be hopefully again a super grind in which they're just trying to do everything they can to win regardless of like setup or or you have like the Bengals who it's reported that Joe Flacco might be out, so you're back to Jake Browning. New York Giants is next, and like with the Giants, they're an exciting team, but you lose Cam Scatterboo, which is really unfortunate for the Giants, obviously. But it makes for an easier game matchup against them, who also the Giants have one of the worst, I think, statistical defenses in the league right now. And then you have the Vikings, who, despite the Bears losing to them week 1, I do think that the Bears of right now are probably a better team than the current Vikings, and so I think those are
I
3
agree.
games.
And through 3.5 quarters, they were. They shouldn't have lost that game, point blank, period. And it's not surprising to me that they are where they are. And I actually want to cut you off there because we had planned to talk about this going into this episode, but I think it's becoming more and more apparent. You have kind of shed some light on this. The Vikings really screwed up here with Sam Darnold kind of decision here. If you look at his 18 starts last season, he had 3 games that were like where success rate on passes were below 40%, and 2 of them were the losses. And he only had 2 games where his EPA per dropback was minus 0.5. For those who have no idea what I just talked about, EPA per dropback is like a key efficiency metric where you evaluate a QB's performance based on their completed passes and like the value of those completions, the incomplete passes and their interceptions, sacks, and then quarterback scrambles. Because you're looking at quarterback efficiency. Not to say that scrambles are bad things, but again, when you scramble, you're cutting off half the field and half your resources. Whereas, like, if you take your drop and you see an edge rusher coming in, rather than trying to evade him by going to the outside, if you just step up in the pocket, you keep all your angles and views of the field available to you, as opposed to scrambling to the right or left. 3 quarterbacks in this league could probably scramble to their right and throw it all the way to the left with the same velocity as if they were like sitting in the pocket. So that's kind of like a good metric to show like, okay, how well are they playing the quarterback position? And 2024 was one of Darnold's best seasons. I know he's killing it in Seattle, but with the pressure rates, you were wondering if Darisaw came back, would they be resolved, or were Darnold always built under pressure? And that kind of led them to go to JJ McCarthy because he's like, this is a guy who could potentially overcome this. And they thought they had 2 cracks at the apple with JJ McCarthy, and they still might. The book is not out on him because technically this is his rookie season, and he's just coming back from not playing in a while, right? So, and short notice on Carson Wentz. We know we kind of were harsh on him last week. We had no idea he was going through some of the injuries. Like those injuries just came out, and obviously you don't want to wish that on any player. And the fact he got through it, that was insane. But it's kind of hard to be a really good quarterback when your entire arm is like not functional.
Yeah,
because of a labrum tear. So you were dealing with that if you're the Vikings, and this is probably kind of like the worst case scenario you're in right now. But
yeah, I'm really concerned about JJ McCarthy, and like what he can do. Obviously, again, like you said, this is effectively his rookie season. But I think back to his injury, right? It's like a high ankle sprain, and for most cases, that's like a 1 to 2 week injury. For mild cases, that's about a 4-week, rest time span for the NFL. And so the fact that this injury happened in week 2, and they were willing to put out, injured Carson Wentz out here against the Chargers over a probably more than likely recovered JJ McCarthy, in a way kind of scares me about where he might be in terms of his development and how the team might view him as a quarterback, because you're saying like there's always a chance that McCarthy may have had the worst high ankle sprain of all time that takes the entire season to recover from, but the fact that he wasn't placed on IR, the first one, like they've basically been like kind of just egging us on with his recovery time, making it seem like, oh, he should be good this week, but then they're like, I don't know, and then it's like this whole thing. If he's healthy enough and you think he's the guy, you should be starting, especially because you look back to last year as well. The Vikings were 100% a win now type team. Obviously, they were competing for basically the number 1 seed in the NFC. They have one of the best receivers in the league right now. You have one of the better number 2 wide receivers in the league. You have a solid tight end. You have a good running back in Aaron Jones. He was hurt, but then you pick up Jordan Mason, who's also pretty solid. You have a considerably good offensive line, solid piece on defense. This is a win now built team that I said earlier to just on text that like literally a functional game manager should be able to keep this team competitive in most of these games. And the fact that they're trotting out Carson Wentz in his injured state, I think kind of brings up red flags to me about JJ McCarthy's overall development as a quarterback.
Yeah. And say goodbye to those Carson Wentz $60 contracts next year. Full prediction. That went out of the water quick. But you had Daniel Jones on the practice squad. You had Sam Darnold. You had the opportunity to keep one of these players. Like if you're letting go of Sam Darnold, have Daniel Jones as the backup or like starter here. Do not let him out of the building here. You cannot do that. And speaking on this EPA per dropback stat, I've been doing a lot of digging into it. By the way, Sumer Sports, great resource to kind of like, if you don't know stats really quickly, you can pull it up and stuff. And I didn't know how JJ McCarthy fared in his first 2 weeks compared to other quarterbacks. And obviously, these are effectively his first starts in regular season NFL. His EPA was negative 0.508. So among starting quarterbacks, or like all quarterbacks in the league, weeks 1 and 2, he ranked 34th. 34th. Cam Ward, rookie, right? Second start was at negative 0.275, 32nd. Michael Penix, 0.103, kind of just like his kind of half of a season coming back. Like Dre May, 0.213 in week 2 when we kind of didn't know what he was. But even Caleb Williams, for all the struggles he had in the fourth quarter, and in the second game against the Lions, he was kind of 21st. He was kind of like borderline mediocre here. So with JJ McCarthy's like early season performance, it kind of indicates like the stuff within his control was subpar. And he needs to work on the efficiency part of his games because we know what he has when the game is tight and he gets into a rhythm. Now it's just about like, how do you keep the team for an entire game engaged? They have that defense. They have a fantastic defense. They place a lot of resources into protecting their QB and the defense over the season because Darnold signed with Seattle. It's like this is there's a lot of pressure on JJ McCarthy in his first season to kind of pick up that efficiency and just keep the offense running, as they're saying. So
yeah, because I think we even mentioned it like for that rookie class's rookie year, right? Where we were like the Vikings probably have the best situation for a rookie quarterback to go into amongst all the rookie quarterback landing spots. Just like you look at the Bears and with Caleb Williams, you're like, sure, they have pieces. Don't know how competitive they'll be year 1. You look at the Commanders and the Broncos, who I think were widely considered one of the worst rosters in the league going into last season. You have Michael Penix with the Falcons, where you're like, you have a couple solid pieces, but you do also have a lot of holes and a lot of issues, in addition to a couple of your superstars. And so you're like, the Vikings, and it showed last year with how far they made it into the playoff, or just the season at least, where like they were a really easy team. And then you look at the success of Sam Darnold, you look at Kirk Cousins, you look at how they were with Daniel Jones, how they developed him a little bit, and you're like, oh, the Vikings have a QB-friendly system where it's a lot easier for QBs to have success in this specific system in comparison to other systems around the league. We talk about like the 49ers being one of the better ones, right? And so like you have that, and then so I hope JJ McCarthy can turn things around. Obviously, you don't want that to necessarily happen for your division opponent, but I hope you can turn it around, at least be somewhat serviceable. But it'll be interesting to see how he plays the rest of the season, because I think that'll tell a better story of maybe where he is in his overall development. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we got on a large tangent, kind of recapping how things are going.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'll like this first clip and kind of our observations from week 9. This is kind of diving into the film for those just first tuning into the channel for the first time. Let's see here. I'm gonna open up the window, and I don't know if you saw this run with Quinn
Oh,
Miners,
yeah.
but he like basically pancake blocked to like the linebacker there. Okay, boom, and then boom, right on the DB. I think this is on a touchdown run to
Yeah.
Dobbins or the Harvey
I
run,
think
but
it was
like,
RJ Harvey.
yeah, like when you have those kind of like blocks and open up gaps for the entire team, like I like that. There's just nothing better. Like
Mm-hmm.
RJ Harvey is looking at like a Christmas tree in the end zone with like just gift wrap presents for him because like there's nothing stopping him from reaching there and like just opening it up and diving into the end zone because of what the
Mm-hmm.
offensive line is doing. So you got McGlinchey doing his thing, Miners doing that on the right side of the line.
Mm-hmm.
That's just that's just incredible. And yes, everybody's gonna lament the Cowboys defense. It's been bad. It's like a
Yeah.
fantasy goal mine. But
Thank you,
like when you
Eberflus.
see things like this, it kind of translates when it's like, okay, let your offensive players, offensive line be the aggressors because they're going to go back and protect your guy, Bo Nix.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to show a little bit of offensive line appreciation here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I talked about this a little bit last week too, but like the Broncos feel like a team that the whole team is like the whole offense feels like they're committed to blocking regardless of your position. And like, I mean, we see this like extra effort from Quinn Miners here, right? But like throughout the game, you'll see Cortland Sutton, Troy Franklin, who's on the smaller side, Marvin Mims, who's not that big, all, consistently hit their blocks with full effort. No one's like easily getting past those guys. And then you have Pat Bryant, who scored his first career touchdown last week, um, who he talks about how he takes pride in his blocking as a wide receiver as well. Saying that if you block well, you get more play time, and so we're seeing that come to fruition with his increased snap count that he's been getting. But like this is a team that feels like they enjoy run blocking, kind of like how with George Kittle, I feel like I will see clips of him blocking and like laughing when he pancakes people. But maybe, but it's I don't know. It's like a culture that it feels like the Broncos have kind of really enveloped, I guess. I mean, as much as any other team might want to be good at run blocking, it seems like the team's really committed to putting themselves out there, even if it might bang them up a little bit.
And the thing is, this is going to translate in the playoffs. This is going to translate in December, January, and then hopefully February. Like
Mm-hmm.
so, and when you're seeing this out of your team now, like almost midway through the season, that's
Mm-hmm.
a really really great sign. So,
Yeah.
um, shout out Quinn Miners here. All right, um, Jonathan Taylor. I can't believe it, but we've not talked about him on this podcast, and it's post week 8. Yes, this is a highlight reel, but of course, I want you to tell me the amount of backs, and there could be more than one. Yes, he gets a large hole, but like, did you see like linebackers like being outrun by a running back of this caliber, and then him having to tiptoe the sideline
Mm-hmm.
and outrunning the DB for an 80-yard touchdown? This is just ridiculous, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like he should have been down at like the 30 or the 40-yard line because he had to tiptoe the sideline and not be out of bounds. That would have slowed him down.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that like I think it just shows what his long speed, despite all the injuries and like
Mm-hmm.
struggles that he's had on the Colts up to this tenure. Like Jonathan Taylor having a phenomenal season. Yes, the line is playing well. He's had his best QB like in years. But Jonathan Taylor would be MVP of the NFL if it wasn't a quarterback driven league.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like what a good team. Like Jonathan Taylor. Yeah, I feel like everybody really. I mean, everyone knew he was good, but I don't think most people. I mean, maybe probably Colts fans, but most people didn't really expect this level of efficiency coming out of Jonathan Taylor. Especially, like, I remember, I think we were both a little bit worried about them losing 2 of their interior linemen over the course of the offseason,
Right.
who both went to the Vikings. But then you look at like how they're graded on like PFF, and like their 2 replacement guys are rated as one of the best centers and one of the best guards in the league, and you're like, that is actually insane. Plus, I mean, you have a solid foundation of other, linemen on there. You have Quentin Nelson, who was definitely a generational talent when he was drafted, and we see him being a staple of this offensive line literally the entirety of his career so far. So yeah.
And that's not the only Colts clip I have from this week. We are going to talk about Tyler Warren. Yes, I said it. We are going to talk about Tyler Warren here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can see this. Basically, I just want to show you how he's getting his production in the offense. So I actually stopped it here at a perfect time. Basically, whenever you see a jet motion like this from 16, I think it's Ashton Doolin, if I remember correctly. It might be somebody else. When you see this, you're like, oh, they're trying to create a gap for Jonathan Taylor on the left side by bringing over the DBs. But then like, oh, okay, it's zone coverage. So like, okay, this is probably still like advantageous in the run situation because you got 2 linemen and you got a wide receiver over here. So like, okay, we got 3-on-3 over here, and then you got the safety. So we got an advantage for Jonathan Taylor on the safety that's sitting maybe what, 10, 12 yards deep. And I want you to watch how the play unfolds. Okay. So this again, I perfectly timed this, I guess. I didn't intend to. But basically, this is a second after the handoff here. Watch where most of the defenders are. 3 of the linemen are over here, like because they're expecting a run. You see the defensive end kind of crashing here. The interior defensive end, I think, trying to crash over here. You kind of see this linebacker react well to Daniel Jones's body position because he's like, oh, why is he looking over there? He's going to throw that screen. But look at this outside defensive end here. He has no idea how to contain this because he's already late. He was kind of like, should I crash on this run or not? And if you look at the other top side of the screen, where the pass is going to go to Tyler Warren eventually, you already have 2 DBs like planned to get locked up in the safety, like up top here. There's nothing stopping anybody from getting to the outside. And Tyler Warren is getting this pass 1 yard from the line of scrimmage, and in an advantageous situation where he could just run, and he has a runway for like 8-9 yards. And those are the kinds of looks where he is benefiting from Jonathan Taylor and this great offensive line, and with a great schematic mind from Shane Steichen. So when you're getting these kind of looks over here, this is great for like a confidence boost and a value add for this offense. Where it's like, okay, you can't overplay Jonathan Taylor, can't overplay Alec Pierce. Michael Pittman is a stud already, and you have all these pieces working in tandem, and Steichen is just doing a great job game planning. I haven't seen an RPO plan quite like this, and it's very creative from what you see in the Colts. So it just goes to show you talked about the linemen, and they could do a phenomenal job blocking. But the complementary pieces around the Colts' strengths are really guiding the scene to where they are, and it's impressive to watch. Really impressive to watch.
Yeah. I have a little gripe with you, man. In the beginning of the season, you talked me out in some capacity of not going after guys like Tyler Warren in fantasy football, and here we are. And I have another guy. Obviously, I don't think we have the clips of this guy, but you also talked me out of going after Rashee Rice at the start of the season, saying that you don't think he'll be that good coming off of injury and suspension and everything. And here we are. But
it's been a bad season for me. Every single guy I pretty much like said, okay, I'm down on this guy. You go with Puka, Jameer, where I ranked them in the top 10, but not as high as you probably expect. Rashee Rice, coming off of injury. Tyler Warren, Tucker Kraft. I've been down on all these guys, and they are just like out there to prove me wrong. So it's been a bad year, but I think what's more important here to see like how is Tyler Warren succeeding and
Mhm.
why he's just suddenly coming out
Mhm.
and having like these crazy stats and impact on the Colts in this rookie season.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because I think when you see the whole picture of how this offense works, um, it's kind of like no mistake why they're what 7-1, 8-1 now.
Seven
Like
and
it,
one.
it's December against the Chiefs, or I think they're playing in November, like November 20th or 23rd or something. That game is going to be fun to watch.
Mhm.
And like this Colts team is for real until the end of the year. I have no idea about next year, but I think up until this point they're doing a phenomenal job. So I
Mhm.
think just the way they know their strengths and can build off of it and self scout, very impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. This is seemingly a very well run team. Um, like it knows what its identity too is, which I think helps a lot. Because I think some of these, you know, some of these kind of like maybe wild card teams. Not saying that this will be like a borderline wild card team. I think they're one of the best teams in the league right now. But they struggle to find what it is they excel at early in the season, which kind of puts them in this playoff chase. I guess, or like they're like in the mix of the playoff hunt. We're trying to get that 6th seed or trying to get that 7th seed. But then like pretty early on, I think the Colts have figured out what it is that they excel at, and they've been able to exploit defenses with multiple aspects of their game to be atop of the league right now in terms of record.
Yep, absolutely. So courtesy of 10 Wing, NFL, and then Dan Casey on previous clips here. Just wanted to credit them. All right. So that's all the Colts clips I had. And because I'm still going on this train of like regrets, I want to show you how Tucker Kraft. There's a lot of clips of like Tucker Kraft balling out. He is having a phenomenal season as well. Again, National Tight End Day. So the two tight ends I probably didn't expect to go off at the start of the season have just had phenomenal games. So yeah, let's kind of wait for this to rewind here. Okay, so I missed it that time. We'll go 2 seconds here. So at the snap of the ball, we'll go back a little bit here. Let's Tucker Kraft is kind of like in line with the offensive line. Well, he's kind of back a little bit to show the tackle on the wide receivers up. So it's kind of like a 2-by-2 formation or like a 2-by-3, if you will. If you count the running back here, essentially he starts out on the inside, and the way Joey Porter is kind of pressed up against Christian Watson, um, yeah, they're kind of playing the shorter intermediate. So right away, I think Jordan Love knows, um, okay, if they're playing like this, it's going to be really hard for like the linebacker to get over the top when Christian Watson's running up. Not that he's setting a natural pick, but it's like really hard just in like how Joey Porter is playing this
Mm-hmm.
for him to get over to Tucker Kraft. So 2 yards away from like the line of scrimmage, Tucker Kraft already has a natural advantage because of the way the Steelers are playing this.
Mm-hmm.
But Jordan Love seeing it and getting it to him before he even crosses the numbers is also really important here too, because once he catches it, he's not just right on the boundary. He has all the space to work with. So if there is nobody tackling him, he could probably go scot-free to the 45 until the safety closes out on him. And that's exactly what you see happen. Like he's able to make some moves happen and he's not down until the 38. So there's a lot of situations where you'll see on his touchdown, Matt LaFleur is putting him in positions to run after the catch, and it's what Tucker Kraft does really, really well in this offense. But I think the way the Packers align themselves on top of Jordan Love's timing and rhythm, like on these short throws, is really, really helpful. So, again, Tucker Kraft is having a phenomenal season. Prove me
Mm-hmm.
wrong this year, but how is he doing it within the structure of the offense is, I think, important to see as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and it feels kind of like each week feels more clear kind of like how they want to run their offense. Right? I think for the most part, it is through Josh Jacobs that this offense functions and runs through. Where whenever Josh Jacobs is fully healthy, it's like the Packers are pretty much in any one of those games. Last week, obviously, he was still. I think he was on limited snaps, so we saw a little bit of Emmanuel Wilson, who also played pretty good football. But then it feels like it's been more abundantly clear this season that Tucker Kraft feels like almost the go-to guy that they want to scheme for amongst the receivers. And obviously, some games he does have lesser amount of yards, being naturally from the tight end position. But it feels like he's kind of like the guy that they want to like be able to get the game through too, because whenever Tucker Kraft has a good game, it feels like it really opens up the rest of the offense for the other wide receivers. It still feels like they have like 20 wide receiver ones that they're trying to figure out who's the actual wide receiver one just by drafting Matthew Golden. And even with Christian Watson coming back for however many weeks. But yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't even mention, like, again, Steelers kind of bad situation. Like, the safety's on a blitz too.
Mm-hmm.
So this is coming from like Tucker Kraft's side, and that doesn't help from the Steelers when you're trying to like kind of get something to get the ball out quick, but the ball's already out before you can even get there because you're trying to blitz from so far away, and you created like a disadvantage for your defense on that front. So
Yeah.
it's also the Packers taking advantage of what they're getting from defenses too. And Tucker Kraft's a hard guy to tackle. He's a hard guy to match up against. Like he's not somebody you could just stick like somebody one-on-one and expect him to take care of like in the schematic situations because he's so good at running at the catch and it's so hard to bring him down. So I still want to see him. There's some clips where I see him do a good job of adjusting to the ball, like when it's not scripted. But for him and Tyler Warren, a lot of these are schemed plays. So you want to see like, okay, these are great within the structure of the offense, but what happens if some of these pieces are not there? Can you win one-on-one as the go-to guy? I'm seeing some signs from Kraft. I want to see it from Warren, but it doesn't take away from the phenomenal seasons they're having. They're having a great season,
Yeah.
and it's no secret why these offenses are super successful.
Yeah, and just like the fact that historically, tight ends also do take a couple years to develop.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
especially with Tyler Warren. I think there's a lot of positives to look forward to. I wouldn't be surprised with a potentially down year from Warren next season. It seems like we've seen a lot of these year one or these rookie breakout tight ends kind of struggle in their second year, but then they follow it up with a little bit better production in year three. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe that's the case for Tyler Warren, especially just with also you look at the rest of the Colts offense and you're like, well, even if he does slow down next year, they have a lot of other weapons that they can go to, which I think is really good for them. But I don't know. I feel like Sam Laporta, obviously he still played good his sophomore year, but like it was a little bit down, I think, in comparison to what people expected after his rookie season. Kyle Pitts from a million years ago, year one to now basically. He kind of struggled there. Dalton Kincaid was kind of like, again, another one of those year one breakouts. When he got the opportunity, year two, he kind of slowed down a little bit. Now we're kind of seeing him when he's healthy. He looks like a superstar. Yeah, so that just seems like a case for a lot of tight ends, it seems. And so, again, if he comes back stronger in year three, which I'm already kind of saying year two might be down, that'll be super awesome for the Colts here.
Yeah, it's an important point because for Bears fans like Colson Loveland are like, okay, why did we draft this guy if he's not having an impact and Tyler Warren is having a significant impact? You have to remember that the Bears are kind of like having an entirely new offense kind of brought into the table, whereas like the Colts have had like key pieces like there for a while, and the Bears are trying to like completely shift their offensive identity. And he's not even starting as a starter. He has to play behind Cole Kmet. And it takes an entire offense to get going. And for Loveland, it's gonna take 3 years. For Tyler Warren, who knows? Maybe it might take him like year two. He might have a sophomore slump because people see all this tape from like 8, 9 games, and they're like, oh, if we just take away Tyler Warren, he's not going to be as effective. This year, I don't think it's going to really impact the Colts much because even if he's taken away of schematically, you still have to deal with Jonathan Taylor, right? It's kind of pick and choose, Tyler Warren or Jonathan Taylor just on where he's being aligned and how he's used. And that with that, Loveland gives me hope because there are plays where he's just winning flat out one-on-one. So just a little tight end, like film talk or just random talk, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah. Speaking of the Bears, a lot of people are killing Caleb for like this missed throw. This is actually one of the rare instances where I'm not going to blame Caleb here. So why do I not say that? It's a miscommunication. Watch Roquan Smith here. He's kind of doing a great job of like reading Caleb's eyes, even though like right here it's just like Caleb, he's wide open here. In real time, I think he's expecting on the zone look, he's expecting DJ Moore to keep running because there's not really people like directly in front of him. Like Roquan Smith is like 5 yards behind him. So he's expecting DJ Moore to keep running, but he kind of just like stops in front of the goalpost instead of continue to run, and that's kind of what leads to the stop for the Ravens here on 4th down.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is a bad decision by Caleb now looking at this. I think it's you got to get on the same page. This is DJ Moore and Caleb's kind of situation.
Yeah.
Like when you see this look, you gotta know where to go. And Caleb's expecting and anticipating one thing, and DJ Moore is not doing that. It's not the first time we've seen DJ Moore struggle with this. I would not be surprised if he's moved at the trade deadline, although I think it's aggressive, because he seems to have a hard time understanding Ben Johnson's offense.
Yeah.
And is not really a strong suit, whereas like if he's kind of the primary guy and he's just getting looks, he's going to be really effective. But in Ben Johnson's scheme, it's not really matter if you're the primary guy. It's kind of like, can you play within the scheme of the offense? And he will help get you production.
Yeah.
And it just seems like a mismatch fit there. And then this is kind of one of the things where it's not DJ Moore's game. Can he do it? Yes, but not an elite level. It's more like Burden and Odunze can do it at a high level. But like DJ Moore is like kind of just like, give me a go ball and I will beat you in my athleticism because you can't match up with me. Or give me the ball like on a jet sweep or wide receiver screen and I'm gonna torch you. Like that's why he was so effective with Justin Fields, because they didn't really have a schematic plan like on offense. It was really just get the ball to DJ and get out of the way. Get the ball to the superstars and get out of the way. And we're seeing like now when it's different, it's a little bit of a learning curve here. So.
Yeah. And then I mean also on this play, I think of like I don't know, there's like a lot of context to it too, where you like obviously it's like the spot of where it is, you know, what down it is. We're obviously have the luxury of being able to pause this video, see it from above, which also, you know, changes how we perceive it versus like in the moment. Obviously, this is a lot to process, especially for a second-year quarterback. And what I'd say is probably one of the highest stakes games you've played yet, just simply for the fact that, you know, you're 4-2, right? And you're like, this is the same point basically where it all started to go downhill last season. Can we, you know, push back? And then there's this whole case of like this almost feels like a must-win game for the Bears. And so there's a lot of different types of pressures I think on this game too, where it just makes for a messy situation. I think it just kind of becomes a learning opportunity. I think for the future, again, like I said earlier too, like they have an easier schedule the next 2 or 3 games, so hopefully this can just be a learning opportunity game so that things like this don't happen again in must-win situations.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, this is not worse than the pick he threw, because I think the pick was kind of just like a missed read and an opportunity to just get first downs. So the more first downs you get, the more confidence your offense gets on that drive. But here's just a miscommunication where it happens. Like you see this all the time where like quarterbacks expect wide receivers to be in certain spots and they're not. And it's unfortunate that it happened on the down and was. But this is not to me that like this is not like a massive miss. This is kind of like a miscommunication miss. Massive miss would be like if the receiver was like guarded man to man and like he had like 3 yards of separation off that coverage and you saw it, but you just flat out like didn't give him a chance to catch the ball. Caleb Williams gave him a chance if DJ Moore kept running. So it's just one of those things where like they're not on the same page.
Yeah.
Alrighty, that's all the film I got. But we're trying something new now that we're like almost, or basically halfway through the season officially. Corstian,
Mhm.
this is the debut of your top 5 power rankings. Your list. What do you got for us?
Top 5 power rankings. So I'll count down. Which also, when I was making making this, I noticed my top 9 teams did not change from last week to this week.
Very interesting. Okay.
Yeah, normally I feel like you see some type of change, but anyway, so my number 5 team is the Seattle Seahawks. Currently sitting at 5-2. They were on a bye last week, so there was. I mean, they didn't really do much to change the ranking. They were. I mean, right. But I mean, from what I see from this team, right, like they're efficient. I think on both offense and defense. Their secondary has issues here and there with Tariq Woolen. But like Sam Darnold, I think has proved most everybody wrong in terms of like who he is as a quarterback, in terms of like, can he, be a good quarterback in another system? It feels like they're in every game that they play. So I think one of these losses is to the Buccaneers, who they lost on like that last Baker Mayfield drive when they played against each other, I think. So the pass attack's good. JSN looks like one of the best receivers in the league right now. Ken Walker, obviously, he isn't getting the goal line carries, but like he's still good on that. He's still an overall efficient runner. Zach Charbonnet is really solid in the goal line, despite lack of maybe overall running efficiency. So here at 5-2, they have that record. They're my number 5 team. And then I look at like the teams that they faced as well, where they beat the Steelers week 2 pretty handedly, who I think are like a middle of the pack team, right? They beat the Saints very handedly, which makes sense. They beat the Cardinals in a close game. They lost by 3 points to the Buccaneers in a 38-35 shootout. They beat Jacksonville, who was on a hot streak, and then they've beaten the Texans, who are looking to ramp things up too. So it's not like a bunch of scrubs that they've just beaten. Where I feel like there's sometimes where teams are, you have a great record, but your opponent's combined records like 3-30 or something like that, and you're like, well, that's not a real competitive team. But here they've been winning, and they win against at least average to good teams as well.
Okay.
Number 4, you ready?
Let's do it.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I thought a couple weeks ago, I thought they were the best team in the league, and then they kind of got beaten up a little bit by Detroit. And I mean, a lot of things I think happened in that game where it was just unfavorable for them. But Detroit's also a phenomenal team. So I was like, it really is give or take. I think that maybe another week, Tampa Bay could beat Detroit. But outside of that, they've still stayed competitive with their wins. They beat the Falcons, who we thought were going to actually be a good team this year. They beat the Texans, who are looking to ramp things up. The Jets, which suck. They lost to the Eagles. They beat the.
That's a bye week, man. I'm just saying.
They beat Seattle. They beat the 49ers. They lost to Detroit, and then they beat the Saints. So they're beating who they should, and then they have 2 losses against last year's Super Bowl winner and the best team in the NFC last season. So that's kind of their 2 losses there. And then I feel like just the biggest concern is just like the wide receiver injuries, but you still got Emeka Ibuka. Tez Johnson's looking solid. Hopefully Chris Godwin can get better as the season goes with his health. And then maybe Jalen McMillan as well can, get healthy down the stretch as well. So they're my number 4 team. Number 3 team is the Detroit Lions. They're just they seem unstoppable. Like, even though they have 2 losses on this list, but I'm like, this feels like an unstoppable team. It almost feels like the Packers game was more a fluke than anything with how poorly they lost. Because you lose 27-13, and we're both like, I mean, I think they'll be good, but maybe they won't reach the highs they did of last season. And then the following week, they put up 52 points, then 38, then 34, then 37. Then they lost at 17, and then they beat the Buccaneers, one of the best teams in my, like I said with the rankings here, with a 24-9 win. So Lions might have a slightly worse scheme, but the players, I think, make up for it more than anything. So That's why they're here sitting at my number 3 spot. Number 2 is the Los Angeles Rams. Matt Stafford is playing phenomenally with a 17-2 touchdown interception ratio. And the fact that, they missed out on Puka Nacua for like a week or two. And Devontae Adams has been able to ball out through that. Tutu Atwell's played solid. Terrence Ferguson, I think their rookie tight end on the bench has had his moments here and there. Kyron Williams still playing solid. Really annoyed with some of Sean McVay's play calling in crunch time sometimes, but overall, the Rams are a very good team. And I think they deserve the number 2 slot. And then my dog is upset being in the room right now. So if you hear the whining, that's that. But for my number 1 slot, I do have the Indianapolis Colts sitting at 7-1 as the best team in the league right now. They lost to the Rams predominantly due to an Adonai Mitchell stupid touchdown fumble thing. And obviously, it happens. You got to be more disciplined than that. And so I don't necessarily excuse that. The Broncos have both their losses come with somewhat stupid mistakes, I'd say, in terms of last-second wins by their opponents. But I still have the Broncos at the 10 slot. So they're still a good team, but and they could have a better record. But I still so they're still good from that aspect, but they also can't excuse those losses. But at the same time, Colts are a really close team to being undefeated, in my opinion. The offense looks unstoppable. Daniel Jones looks like a great quarterback who looks like they're trying to get re-signed up for another couple seasons now. Jonathan Taylor looks good. The receiver room looks great. They even were missing out on Alec Pierce for a couple weeks, and he comes back, and then all of a sudden he's this most recent week's receiver, leading receiver or something. So, their defense, while they let up a decent amount of yards, can make key stops and key moments, which I like as well. And so the number 1 overall slot goes to the Colts. So Colts 1, Rams 2, Lions 3, Buccaneers 4, Seahawks 5.
4 NFC teams just goes to show how powered. And I got some gripes with this list. Not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't even put the team that's at the top of the NFC in your top 5 rankings, even though you have 4 NFC teams.
Right.
So what's up with not having the Packers? What's up with not having the Chiefs? And what's up with not having the Bills? I know it's tough between those 8 teams to kind of categorize them, but talk me through why you don't have those 3 teams on the list.
Yeah. I don't know. I look at the Packers' overall schedule, and obviously they are atop the NFC right now. But they have. So they've beaten Detroit, which I think is the biggest accomplishment by them by far. And then they most recently beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. But then I look at the rest of the schedule that they've gone through, where it's Washington, who's kind of on the bottom half of the league, I'd say, for this year. They lost to the Cleveland Browns. They tied with the Dallas Cowboys, and then they beat the Bengals, and they've beaten the Cardinals. So they've won mostly against teams that they should beat. A couple surprise wins, but we went into this season after the Micah Parsons trade, assuming that the Packers are in a way, the best team in the league. They're going to be an untouchable team in the NFC, just to kind of be okay. Because even look at the Cardinals game, right, where they won 27-23. That's kind of a iffy win from a team that I'd want in the top 5 power rankings. I look at the Bengals, where they win 27-18, so it's a 9-point win, which is a little bit better. Again, you tie with the Dallas Cowboys. You only put up 10 points against the Browns. And so it's you have some good games, but you also, in some of your wins, it doesn't feel like a comfortable win. Similar with the Broncos. The Broncos beat the Jets, right? But I wouldn't say I'm happy with how the Broncos beat the Jets. It's the Broncos at 6-2 had technically just as good of a record or better record than some of these other teams that I have in the top 5. But so the Packers, they're sitting at the number 8 spot, so it's not like I have them out and away. The Chiefs I have at number 7. What was the other team that you were complaining about?
The Bills.
The Bills, and the Bills are at my number 9 slot. So they're still top 10 teams. Yeah, Patriots are at 6, by the way.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I have an overreaction regarding the Patriots, but yeah, I'm not surprised by that. I think it's a good list. I probably would have ranked it a little bit differently. At first, I thought you were gonna forget about the Rams, and then you put them at 2, so I'm like, "Oh, wow. Very, very interesting how you came up with the power rankings." Um, I probably would have had the Denver Broncos in the top 5, to be honest with you. And I know you're probably doing that to not be a homer, but I think some of their wins have been, like, really, really impressive. I don't know how much the week before kind of played in your emotions with that, but, yeah, I think those are 2 teams I would look at in addition to Green Bay, with a top 5, but other than that, I think it's a solid list. All those teams are deserving to be considered for your top 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, overall,
Yeah.
great job. Excited to see how things turn out next week.
Yeah, I'll say at the bottom of the board, the Jets did move up 1 spot after being the number 32 team for 2 weeks in a row, or pretty much the entirety of the season, I guess. Because I've started this. I have week 7 post rankings, week 6 post rankings, week 7 post rankings, and then these are the week 8 post rankings. And so it was the Jets at the bottom 32, and then they moved up to 31 with the Titans falling to 32.
Okay. Alrighty. Where do you have the Vikings on this list?
The Vikings are at 25.
Okay. All right. Interesting. All right. Cool. They should be 2-5, but again, not gonna talk about that. Leading into some of the overreactions, I can get us started here. Drake May as MVP. I think it's time. I think this is a Drake May stand. I'm just pulling up these stats real quick, but like considering you got Demario Douglas and you got who is it? Kayshon Boutte as 6th-round draft picks. Got a 31-year-old receiver. And some of these stats I think would really quantify like how much he's dealing with outside of his control. The Patriots are averaging 3.8 yards per carry. That's 26th in the league. And they have a 35.3 success rate on running, which is 30th in the league. That's comparable to sorry, no, he's not comparable to Daniel Jones and Dak Prescott, which they're both having great running games for once. Drake May, his average third down yards to go is 7.6 when the league average is 7.5. Basically, pretty much when the pre-snap pass probability is 75% or higher, when that means defenses are expecting pass because again, his average down of distance is 7 or 8 yards. You're not going to run the ball there. May is first in EPA per dropback, second in success rate, and second in passer rating on must-pass situations. And I think combined with the receiving room I led off with, and then first season in a Josh McDaniels-led offense, which is notoriously complicated. I think you have to put him up there with Daniel Jones, Dak Prescott, and then Baker Mayfield, if not for the line struggles. The big thing he's got to work on is the sack avoidance. That's been a little bit of an issue. But outside of that, he's been absolutely phenomenal. Oh, one more thing.
Yeah.
Offensive line. We raved about them for a bit too and how they built that out quickly. May is 10th in quick pressure rate, which means the offensive line is allowing a lot of pressure like on those passing situations. So he's not facing an ideal situation, which is why his sack to pressure ratio is probably really high. But the fact that he's doing all this despite that is you got to put him in that conversation.
And I agree. I've been a Drake May homer from his pre-draft selection process, where I felt like he was very deserving to be the second quarterback taken in his class after Caleb Williams. I think even in like a redraft of that class, I think it's hard to not draft Caleb Williams after just like considering the type of prospect that Caleb is. Maybe like 5 years down the road, it's like a completely different story. Maybe it's, I mean, theoretically, right? Drake May becomes the next all-star superstar. Every year they're competing for the Super Bowl type quarterback, right? And obviously, then you can be like, oh, like kind of like what teams should have drafted Patrick Mahomes before the Chiefs, something like that, right? But like with Caleb Williams, I feel like he was a good enough prospect that these first couple seasons of his career, you can't deny the overall potential Caleb has. But yeah. Oh my gosh, this dog.
I think your dog is really excited about this Drake May talk. That's what's going on here.
Yeah.
But alrighty. Who you got?
Okay.
Overreactions.
My overreaction is the Ravens got a shot to make the playoffs.
I agree. You look at their next 6 to 7 games. I completely agree. But take it away.
Yeah. The 4-1 Steelers looked like they were going to run away with the division at one point, but since then, falling to Cincinnati and falling to Green Bay, and they faced the Colts this week, followed by the Chargers, then Cincinnati again, then Chicago, and then Buffalo, and then they faced Baltimore, and then they faced Miami, which is whatever, and then they faced Detroit, and then they faced Cleveland, and then Baltimore again. So like, Steelers got a gauntlet of a upcoming schedule, where it's like, I have a hard Steelers offense. I think can keep them in a lot of games. Just like their offenses looked really productive on a week-to-week basis. Mostly, it feels like the defense kind of lets them down. But it's a tough schedule. And if the Ravens can't really turn things around with Lamar Jackson healthy, I feel like the Bengals are going to be a competitive enough team to give the Steelers a run for their money at bare minimum.
So this is really just like you don't think the Steelers are going to win the AFC North. You don't think it's a gimme.
It's not a gimme. It's like a completely open playoff race outside of the Browns, I guess. But, yeah, the Steelers, I think, really fumbled losing these last 2 games, and it just seems like their schedule gets that much harder. Also, I think back to Week 1 when they beat the Jets 34-32, and I'm like, the Steelers made the Jets look like a team that might be competent this year. Is all I have to say. I think about how the Steelers rest of the season might potentially go.
Yeah, I mean that's completely fair. I had one. I'm blanking on one right now. I'm gonna think of one off the spot right here.
Okay.
Let's see here. So I started with Drake May. Ooh, this is the one here. AJ Brown goes back to Tennessee. It's probably not going to happen. But if you're thinking about what Cam Ward needs, what AJ Brown is annoyed at, and what both sides could do for each other, he could be the focal point of the Tennessee Titans. It could happen. And if that's what AJ Brown really wants, to get like 10 targets, 150 yards, and a touchdown, that's the perfect scenario for him because Cam Ward is going to target him all day, every day, and twice on Sunday. So basically, this is just a random overreaction. I don't expect this to hit, but that would be my prediction here.
Yeah, that'd be a funny situation happening. Just how that goes. Yeah, I'm excited for the trade deadline. It's coming up next week, I think. There's a lot of rumors going on. So we'll see how it actually all pans out. I feel like it's always turns out to be a lot more dry than all the rumors lead us to believe, which will be disappointing. I've seen rumors that the Broncos are looking for another tight end, and I'm like, what? Like, I mean, could be cool, I guess. I saw like someone say the Broncos should trade for David Njoku, and I'm like, cool. So the Broncos are going to have 2 tight ends like 30 plus years old. I mean, who are decent enough, but like really of all assets to trade for. And I think the compensation was like a third round pick for Njoku too. And I'm like, again, what? But what would my next take be? I don't know. I felt like I was cooking with last week's takes, especially with the coach firings, more so with Raheem Morris and the Falcons. um, I could envision a scenario where Ashton Genty does not finish his rookie contract with the Raiders.
It's too early, man.
It is.
I think it's more likely that Pete Carroll and Geno Smith are no longer the Las Vegas Raiders than it is for Ashton Genty to be the Las Vegas. I don't know.
That's why it's an overreaction, man.
I know, but if you don't expect the Raiders to move on from Pete Carroll, they're just like, I don't know. I think you're tripping on. I think you're tripping on this, man. It's like an AJ Brown selection here. I think you're tripping on this, but will I completely rule it out? No. I'm never gonna say never.
Yeah, I think back to the quote. This was like 2 weeks ago, I think now, but like him talking about the losing culture that is with the Raiders, and I'm like, how are you a rookie, not even halfway into a season, talking about your team's losing culture and how there's a whole lot of losing in this team's culture? And I'm like, like no way is a rookie talking like that about their team's culture. Like, I think with that, like you have to expect Pete Carroll not to be here next season. For whatever reason, Pete Carroll loves bringing in former Seahawks. There was like the rumors that Russell Wilson might get traded to the Seahawks after he got benched. And I'm like, dog. But yeah, so realistically, I mean, like kind of piggybacking off of last week too, it's like Pete Carroll realistically doesn't seem like a coach that stays next season. Geno Smith is probably gone. Is Aiden O'Connell the best quarterback on that roster right now? Like,
don't underestimate him, man.
Right? Like Geno Smith is playing horribly right now, which is crazy. The fact that he's still playing, team's cursed. I think back to Jimmy Garoppolo and how bad Jimmy was to the point that Devontae Adams requested to trade. Yeah.
All right, you're gonna love this one.
Okay.
Anthony Richardson.
Mm-hmm.
You are a Minnesota Viking.
Yeah.
I think the Vikings could trade for him and have him and JJ McCarthy compete for the job. And it's not the prototypical quarterback that Kevin O'Connell would go for, seeing his past quarterbacks. But he did say that Anthony Richardson, after a Week 9 game last year, that you're going to play in this league for a long, long time. And that might just be encouragement there. But I think I'm looking at the situation here and how Daniel Jones is like looking for the Colts. And then if I'm Anthony Richardson, I'm like, I got no shot of getting a starting job back. I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if he's moved at the trade deadline. But if I'm the Vikings, you just lost Carson Wentz for the season. I don't know who your third string is. And all you know of JJ McCarthy is that he's getting injured, like in the pros, whether or not it's within his control or not. And I think you got to make a move like this, man. Give yourself some upside. Give yourself a guy who you brought in Daniel Jones, you brought in Sam Darnold, and all they needed was a cup of coffee with Kevin O'Connell. And look at how they're playing. So
yeah,
why not? Why not? What's it going to cost you? A 5th round pick? A 6th round, 7th round pick to get this guy? Like, yeah, I get it. He was a top 4 pick, but after kind of like the optics and like the seasons he's had where it's been like so inconsistent, this is the best opportunity to get Anthony Richardson in dynasty or real life football. So if I'm the Vikings, I'd go get it.
Let's see. My just a second, I gotta check. I have to see a schedule to confirm how I envision this team. There's a scenario out there where the Dolphins could finish close to 500, just under it, I think, which hurts the team more and results them in having not as many people gone from the team as they necessarily should, resulting in more or less a run back.
Where is this going?
Or like they face Baltimore next week, which I think they'll probably lose. They have a couple tough games. Then you face Washington, who's facing their struggles. You face the Saints, the Jets, the Steelers, who might be kind of like whose defense sucks, and it seems like if your defense sucks, the Dolphins offense can kind of score on you. You face Cincinnati, and then you have a tough last two with Tampa Bay and New England. But like Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, the Jets, the Saints, and Washington are all 5 somewhat winnable games for them, I think, which gets them to about 6 wins. So they'd be, 6-10, which still isn't that great of a record. But, like, you have, a fluke game in there, and all of a sudden you're at, 7 wins on the season. And you're, less people get fired. Like, Mike McDaniel, I think, is a guy that people are like, oh, after this start especially, he should be – or they're 2-6. So 5 wins gets them to 7. Yeah, I was thinking of it. And so then you're closer to that 7 to 8 win range. And if you hit that, which is technically what we predicted at the start of the season, we're seeing a higher scenario where Tua Tagovailoa is the quarterback next season, which may mean McDaniel's gone. Or if McDaniel's this year, maybe Tua's gone. But you don't get quite the full clean house. If instead they just fully sucked big time this season and had 4 wins at most.
Well, what's stopping the Ravens from being in the exact same position as the Dolphins? Because if you look at their schedule, it's equally as favorable. After the Thursday, they got the Vikings, Browns, Jets, Bengals. That's their next 4 games.
Yeah, well, I've already said the Ravens might win the division.
Right. But I don't know where you have the Dolphins in this playoff picture, man. Is all I'm trying to say.
They're not in the playoffs at all.
Okay, got it.
They win enough games to be oh, they're just a bad middle of the pack team where you're should we fire them? They kind of turn things around in the end, which is stupid, right? If they manage to win back half of the season, so they have weeks 9 through 18, that's 9 games. If they win 5 or 6 of those games, which isn't out of the realm of possibility, and then they still finished 8-9 or 7-10, which is a losing record. But you look at that kind of record from a team, and you're they kind of turn things around after starting 2-6, right? And you're maybe there's work that can be done to improve without firing everybody. And then all of a sudden you got these guys not getting fired, and when in reality they should get fired. But like I'm saying, they don't make the playoffs in this situation. But yeah.
That's a great overreaction
Mm-hmm.
because there's a 1% probability I see this happening.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying they can't win 7 games.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is I can't see them win 7 games and keep both Mike McDaniel and Tua. I think with how the season has continued to look, even with this Atlanta win, I just don't see how you don't rip it from the studs, because I don't think this Dolphins regime expected to be in this position halfway through the season. Considering how they've been knocking at the door in the playoffs in the AFC East a couple years ago. So, yeah, I was just about to ask you who you want to win Thursday night, or who you expect to win Thursday night. It sounds like it's the Ravens. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, probably the Ravens is
Okay.
my assumption.
It very well likely whoever wins this game
Hmm.
gets a 7th seed in the AFC. With how strong the AFC is,
Hmm.
like I don't see them climbing up the ladders unless the Steelers just fully plummet, like you had described a scenario is
Hmm.
likely to happen.
Hmm.
But I also got the Ravens. I think Lamar just makes a night and day difference, and I haven't seen the consistency from the Dolphins sans a Tyreek Hill.
Hmm.
That goes to show like they're turning things around.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like Atlanta is not the barometer for being like, oh, the Dolphins might have something because they got their
Uh-huh.
second win. Although Mike McDaniel called some pretty good plays there.
Hmm.
I think I think Lamar's going to open up everything for this team. I think their defense
Hmm.
might be turning the corner, and the Ravens are about to figure things out, and they're getting more confidence seeing where the
Hmm.
division has and
Yeah.
where the Steelers are headed. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I agree. Anything you want to tell the people, Corstian?
Oh my gosh, this dog is annoying, is what I'll tell people. The way she's scratching at that door. So the reason why so normally the dogs don't have to be with me. Where's the other one? They normally don't have to be with me, right? But today I made a bunch of homemade donuts, and so they're sitting on the counter downstairs. And if I leave one of these dogs, the one that's crying right now, if I leave her alone downstairs, there is a 99.9% chance that she goes onto the counters or finds wherever they are and eats them and gets sick and throws up and diarrheas everywhere, which results into me having to clean this up and me also losing a ton of homemade donuts that I just made. And so that's why she's in here crying right now. Um, but like, if I let her out, all she's gonna do is go and lay down on the floor outside of the room instead of laying on the floor inside of the room.
Well, I'll let you go soon enough after you close this out here. Um, cool that you made donuts. I didn't know you did that.
Yeah,
You're kind of in a pickle, of course, yeah.
yeah.
I just thought she was itching to start for the Minnesota Vikings because of how they're
Mm.
looking, but um, sorry, didn't mean to assume there. But cool. All right. Hopefully the dog gets some relief and stops annoying you. um,
Yeah,
cool that you made donuts though.
yeah. It's fun.
All right, guys, that will do it for us this week. Make sure to follow our Instagram page at amon.a.mission. And our full length YouTube is Amon a Mission. Basketball videos are up on our channel for the NBA season going into week 2. Newsflash: Wemby's a monster. We'll talk about that more Friday or later. Corstian, close this out, man.
Peace.
We'll see you guys next week.
Woo!